Hello everyone and welcome to today's webinar on LS eCommerce Get to Know Dynamicweb. My name is Petur Sigurdsson, Product Director for LS Pay and LS eCommerce here at LS Retail. And co-hosting this webinar with me today are two of our good friends from Dynamicweb, Brede Bjerke, VP of Sales, and Nicolai Gosvig, Pre-Sales Consultant. During today's webinar, I will start with a brief introduction to LS eCommerce to set the context. And then for the main part, Brede and Nicolai from Dynamicweb will take over and educate us on the Dynamicweb platform. We'll get to know Dynamicweb as a company and how they've been working with LS Retail. We'll see a product demo alongside mentioning a few reference customers. And we'll also then touch on deploying the Dynamicweb solution, or basically how to embark on a project. And then at the end, as I said, we will answer your questions that have been submitted during the webinar. So with that, let's dive in. If we look at our e-commerce solution, then the main objective of LS eCommerce is, of course, to support our well-known paradigm of unified commerce. LS Central being the key component, the core engine, if you will, containing all the data and all the business logic, which can then be used equally on the POS as well as online on the various supported e-commerce platforms. And if there's anything that we've learned during the last year or so throughout the pandemic, then unified commerce perhaps used to be a nice to have, but is now truly a must to have. The shift in consumer behavior is here to stay, and offering e-commerce is now simply a necessity. So how is it that we are approaching e-commerce? The integral part here is to expose the data and the business logic in LS Central to the e-commerce platforms. And that we do via the e-commerce API, a single point of entry for everything e-commerce. This is the API that all the e-commerce solutions leverage, meaning that all e-commerce platforms have equal access to the same data and the same features from LS Central. Therefore, all have the potential to support our pricing and discount schemes, instant transaction posting, real-time inventory lookups, and various LS Retail-based entities, such as our loyalty points, gift cards, and coupons, to name a few. And the key part here is that each e-commerce platform that builds an integration to LS eCommerce is completely in control of their respective integration. So each party selects the features they would like to support, basically defining their own feature set. They then each have their own release cadence and their own roadmaps. And this simply means that some integrations are then inherently more feature-rich than others, and that is all at the discretion of each respective e-commerce platform. But which platforms are then available? So let's dive in and perhaps do a bit of comparison. The first one that I'd like to mention is Magento, the platform we at LS Retail selected for our own in-house solution. Magento comes in two versions, the open source version for the medium-sized and the smaller of merchants. And then we have the Adobe Commerce version, which is their enterprise platform. Both of them very customizable with a huge ecosystem around the platform for various plugins and extensions. And by that, I mean payment modules, shipping modules, taxes, etc., etc. We at LS Retail, we have our own development team building the LS Retail extension for Magento. And due to this being internal development, we of course match the features and the release cadence with LS Central. So one can therefore say that our Magento offering always contains the complete set of e-commerce features available from LS Central. But we have very quickly and very firmly learned that there isn't a single universal flavor to e-commerce. Merchants do want options, and with this in mind, we have opened up our e-commerce API for all third-party e-commerce platforms to consume. And we have also formally partnered up with 3 excellent e-commerce platforms, all in order to be able to offer this needed variety, because these platforms, they all have their places and they all have their strong suits. So if we look at these 3 platforms and start with Shopify, then here we have teamed up with VLomni, a company specializing in software integrations, which have built an integration to the Shopify Plus solution, which is basically just the enterprise version of Shopify. If we then look at Shopify as a platform, then we can assert that Shopify is indeed simple and easy to get up and running, but in return, Shopify can be a bit restricted and does not allow for much customization. And therefore, as a result, not all of the LS e-commerce features can be supported on the Shopify platform. Next in line is Avencia Storefront. Avencia Storefront builds on the API server platform, which is now known as Optimizely, and they integrate LS Central to its CMS and e-commerce platform. And in terms of merchants, Avencia is mainly focusing on the enterprise segment with their storefront solution. And this then brings us to the main topic of today, Dynamicweb. Dynamicweb have advanced the furthest of our e-commerce partners and are utilizing the most of our e-commerce API. Now, we have an excellent partnership with Dynamicweb where we jointly collaborate on features and plot the way forward. And here, equally to Magento, we have a rich potential to customize the solution. But the main strength of Dynamicweb is perhaps that they are so much more than only an e-commerce solution, but rather a platform containing various additional services and components. But the objective here today is not for me to educate you on the Dynamicweb platform. For that, we have Brede and Nicolai eagerly awaiting. So over to you, Brede and Nicolai.
So thanks all for joining in this webinar today, and thank you very much for the introduction, Peter. Let me just shortly introduce you to my colleague, Nicolai Gosvig. He will do the demo along the way, and he will be a great support in the Q&A session afterwards. Nicolai has been with us for the last couple of years and knows all the details and all the techniques of the platform. Me, myself, I'm heading the sales efforts in Dynamicweb, so I know quite a lot of you guys already. You have met me at events and so on and so forth. I'm looking more into business than actually IT, so that is my take on that. So first of all, just to give you an idea in a trip down a historical trip. So why LS Retail and Dynamicweb? First of all, I would say that it is a relationship that started in late 2017, and it has along the way evolved into almost a friendship. We are so much in contact with each other almost on a weekly basis, where we talk about customers, prospects, techniques, roadmap, everything that you can imagine. It's also the case that we actually meet each other around the globe, and this is a photo from South Africa in late 2019. And I must admit that having Maria in between me and Magnus, which is Magnus's wife, also made it actually quite comfortable in being together with her. So I think this picture describes very much the relationship that we have today. But why is it that we started working together with LS Retail, or vice versa? So historically, Dynamicweb has been extremely strong in integration cases, and these were before the unified commerce times. So what we were extremely strong in was B2B. Having today more than 400 customers whom is running on Navision, Business Central, and more than 100 customers that integrates on AX or finance and operations, we were strong in verticals like manufacturing, distribution, wholesale. One thing we needed though was the last leg. We needed retail, and we didn't have that retail. So what we looked for is a strong retail partner who would think a little bit like us. And one of the things that struck us when we started looking around for a cooperation partners was the similarities of the things that LS Retail say is their own characteristics as well as our characteristics. So I would say that if we try to sum up all the bullet points that Magnus and his team is trying to achieve and what we are trying to achieve at Dynamicweb, we have one common denominator, and that is delivering a business suite, which makes it easy for customers to have everything at the tip of their hands, having everything centralized in a business suite instead of having a business breed approach. So that was the historical reason why we started working together, and we share the same vision as of today. So just to give you a short sum up of who and what is Dynamicweb. So we started in 1999. That means that we have been in the, you could say, web sphere for the last 21, 22 years. We entered the North American market in 2010. We opened the office in Singapore in 2013, and we made a distribution agreement covering Australia in 2019. So I'm proud to say that we more or less cover the whole world today, and we will always be present to you when you start embarking on a project or you start working together with us as partners. We still need to cover the African continent, but as you can see, we have started painting from south going up north. If we look a little bit about our target customer, so who is suited for Dynamicweb? As mentioned before, manufacturing, distribution, and retail is the things or the verticals that we focus on. Does that mean that we cannot cover other businesses? No, it doesn't. And other businesses also use our platform. But communication-wise, and to be very structured and very focused, we are focusing on manufacturing, distribution, and retail. In all, I would say that the denominator of what we are suited for is that we are looking for companies that has a lot of SKUs, meaning stock keeping units, and complexity. Demographics, mid and large size businesses, not too big or not too small. Okay, that's quite unclear. What is that? But I would say that target customers in Dynamicweb is minimum from 50 employees. That means that not small. And I would say that maybe even bigger than 50 employees. But what is more important is that the customers, they have a dedicated team to work with the digital platform, and that should be approximately 5 to 10 people minimum. In that way, the customers are well suited for Dynamicweb, and they can utilize the full feature stack of Dynamicweb. And as you can also see that this ERP stack and the stack that we are focusing on is primarily the Dynamics products, meaning Business Central as of per today and finance and operations, and of course also the previous version being Navision NAV or AX. So let's dive into what is Dynamicweb actually from a product point of view. So if you look at this picture, then at Dynamicweb we believe that e-commerce should not be complex. From that point, we have created a best of suite approach that we call the Dynamicweb e-commerce suite. Let me take you through the different parts of the platform. So in the middle, funny enough, all of us tech vendors, we place ourselves in the middle, and we do as well. But in the middle, you will see the white bricks. And the white bricks, that's actually what we deliver in the platform. So Dynamic Web started in 1999, building a CMS, or a content management system. To translate that into human language, that is the system where you build your websites. So Dynamic Web can contain websites in multiple languages, multiple brands in one and the same installation. So for example, if you as a customer has Adidas, but you also distribute maybe Nike, then you can build two websites in two different communication languages, two different colors, shapes and forms in the CMS. This is where we started. In 2001, we were approached by one of our still biggest customers as of today. Some of you might know the name, brand name. It's called Weber Grill. It's actually barbecue, a North American brand, mega brand. They asked us, is it possible for you guys to show our product catalog online? We're talking back in 2001, and what we did, we started building a product catalog that we could use in our website too. That was the start of e-commerce, and today I'm happy to say that it's maybe one of the most extensive and feature-rich e-commerce platforms globally. It is very, very mature, and of course, when you're working with e-commerce for almost 20 years, you get quite a distance. In 2011, we added the marketing suite. The marketing suite is a suite where we have the possibility to deliver personalized messages, either via personalizing content on the website, personalizing the products that we are showing in the product catalog, or sending out automated email marketing campaigns directly from the platform without having to integrate to external systems. Just to give you an example, so if a customer comes and visits your website, you are using Dynamic Web, and they look at those Adidas shoes, they read about the new Adidas model, what we can then do out of the box in Dynamic Web is take that information on that user and make sure that we use that to show those Adidas shoes in the top of the product list on in the e-commerce part. On the other hand, we can also maybe maybe make some Google ads and let people come to a landing page where they can see those shoes, and then we can start adjusting the content in the website module. All in all, this is something that is possible because we have this all-in-one approach, business suite approach. We don't need to transfer data back and forth between systems. On the left side, you will see LS Retail. LS Retail is the source of the product information. So we get product information, we get business logic. We do have an approach where we say, let's make the ERP system handle all business logic. And then we use the digital platform to utilize and to show the business logic to the relevant persons in the relevant context on the digital platform. On the right side, you see the channels that we operate with today. So today, a channel for us is a website. It's an e-commerce solution. It could be an app in the mobile, but it could also be third-party marketplaces such as Amazon, or it could be a channel where you need to make posters for your physical stores, or you need to make flyers or whatever. That's the channel. This is where the product information management gets into the picture in Dynamic Web. That was added in 2016, and that means that you can work in a structured way using workflows, rights, and roles to enrich your product information so you can deliver consistent product information to all the channels that you need to be present in. Just to sum up, so when choosing your first e-commerce solution or when you are replatforming, you roughly have two choices in your the approach of your e-commerce strategy. You can build your own e-commerce stack, or you can go with an all-in-one business suite approach. When building your own e-commerce set of technologies and integrating them all, be aware of the Frankenstack. Even though that this approach seems very appealing to reasons that you get to choose your point solutions, there are many unforeseen pitfalls. Integration, updating and maintaining the solution, and so on and so forth. On the other hand, on the other side, when you have a business suite approach, you should of course be aware that using Dynamic Web, you will get everything in one platform, but not necessarily the best of breed solutions for every particular part of the platform. So there's pros and cons on both sides of the line. Just a last slide before we dive into the demo. So normally this is how we describe the competition as we see it. I would rather call them peers in the industry because there's a lot of players in the industry. And bear with me that this picture is not necessarily the truth and the whole truth, but nothing but the truth, but this is how we meet the different peers in the industry. So we put ourselves on the right box where we say other all-in-one platforms, where we see players such as Salesforce, Episerver, which is now known as Optimizely, Sitecore. On the other hand, from the left side, we also meet players that are more pure players, such as CMS platforms and e-commerce platforms. One could argue that Magento is bought by Adobe, and they are also moving into the direction to get a full-blown CMS system to add it to their tech stack. So with this, I will leave the stage to the demo.
All right, so I'm going to be giving us a platform demo, and what this contains is basically like I said, a platform demo or a walkthrough of the Dynamicweb platform. We're going to be taking a look at the different modules and how it looks and works in practice. And then we're going to take a look at, so how does Dynamicweb add value to this unified commerce offering that we've discussed a little bit already. So we're going to take a look at how to move a couple products from the ERP system into Dynamicweb's PIM, work with the products in the PIM, and publish those products to the e-commerce channel, where we can make them available for purchase, and also how we can set up some marketing campaigns with all the data that we have in the platform and all the users we have in the platform. So I'm going to jump into my demo now. And we're going to start here on the front page of the demo, which is basically a branding site and e-commerce shop put together, built with Dynamicweb. So we have a front page here for a fashion shop with images, text, there's some products here. All of these come directly from Miller's Retail and so forth. And of course, in the top we have some links to the e-commerce part as well. But without further ado, I'm going to jump into the back end of Dynamicweb. And we start, of course, on the home page where we have different statistics and data from the platform that we can showcase here. Moving a bit further, and if you see here on the left panel, we have all the different modules available in Dynamicweb. So the content area, users and e-commerce, PIM and marketing, and so forth. We're going to start in the content area. And what you see here is, well, basically, this is the work area for your website. So in the top here, we have the different websites available on the platform, meaning you can have multiple branding or e-commerce shops on the same platform, like if you had Coca-Cola and Pepsi here. You don't need to be working in several different platforms to have different websites available. You can simply select the website you want to work on here. In this panel here below, we have all the different pages available on the site. So on our fashion store, we have a front page, products pages, about, and so forth. And within the front page, you then have the different content for your website available here in these columns. And the way we work with content in Dynamicweb is through a visual editor, as we call it, which is basically a tool that allows you to drag and drop predefined content templates like these onto your website. So I can take this template and drag and drop it onto my website, and that will basically update with this content template. This can also work with more specific columns like text columns, image columns, video columns, and so forth. As an added thing, we have a marketing tab available also, which allows you to easily set up split tests and allows you to personalize the page with, for instance, banners for specific user segments and so forth. Moving a bit further, we have a files area. This area basically allows you to store things like images, videos, PDFs, and things like this. Often files that you may not want to be keeping in your ERP system, and that you would rather keep in a separate file area. So this is kind of the place where you would put these kinds of things. We also have a users area. This is, of course, where we store as users, like that could be our loyalty club members, for instance. It could be these loyalty club members come directly from Miller's Retail, of course. It could also be users that we are getting into, for instance, our newsletter group. These would come directly from the Dynamicweb platform. It could also be employee groups that are working within the platform. So if we take a look at a user here, it could be this one, for instance. There's, of course, a bunch of fields available out of the box here. A lot of them have to do with personal information, address, and things like this. These are fields that we can get directly from LS Retail if we have the information there. But we can, of course, also extend to get new fields that we collect directly from the user, so that we get from LS Retail. Moving a bit further, we have the e-commerce area. And most importantly, of course, we can showcase different statistics that are mainly e-commerce oriented that you see on the page here. We can, of course, also where we can see our product catalog here, and very often the product catalog will sort of be a direct mirror of the product catalog that you have in your ERP system, like LS Retail. So normally the product catalog here will basically just be a mirror that is structured by whatever catalog you have in your ERP system with the products in here. And if we take a look, we can look in here in the men's area and the t-shirts area, where you can then, of course, find your products, click on them, and find all of the information that we're integrating directly from LS Retail. Other things, of course, is that, well, we can look at our different orders. So Dynamicweb, of course, allows you to purchase products in different ways. So that could be a regular order, it can be a quote, recurring order, or RMA. And we can also look at things like, what are people's favorites lists? Do we have loyalty points and vouchers running, and so forth. So this area offers different features and functionalities depending on what kind of features the customer wants to utilize from LS and which kind of features you want to utilize from the Dynamicweb platform. Moving a bit further, we have the PIM area also. PIM stands for Product Information Management, and I'm not going to dive too much into detail just yet. We'll take a look in just a second how it is to work in. So I'll expand a bit on this later. And lastly, we have the marketing area. Great tool for utilizing things like email marketing, personalization, and getting insights on the performance of our platform in here, and combining these tools with the data we have on our users. Good. So the question now is, so how does this platform specifically add value to this unified commerce offering that LS Retail has? And to try and explain this and see how it works in action, we're going to start in LS. Because what I would like to start from is, of course, the journey starts here in LS. And to showcase this, I've created two products, a cool t-shirt and an even cooler t-shirt. And what we're going to take a look at is how could we work a bit with these products, get them into our PIM system, publish them to different channels and make them available for purchase, and also create some marketing campaigns around the user information that we have. So I've cheated a little bit. I've already done the integration. So if we dive into our PIM system, we'll find these two t-shirts in our structure. So within my PIM system, I have a warehouse for my LS Retail products. And again, this structure, like in the e-commerce, can more or less be defined by the structure you have in your ERP system, or a bit differently depending on what kind of products and categories that you have. But basically, to find my t-shirts, I can locate them in my men's t-shirts folder. And here I have my two products. Like I said, I've already integrated them. And of course, we get a lot of data from LS that I've enriched there. Part of the PIM system is, of course, figuring out how do I structure the products that I want to work with, depending on where I have products. That could be in ERP, it could be Excel files, things like that. And then how do I set up some rules regarding the kind of data I want to enrich them with. So in this case, I've enriched these three products to 100%, depending on the fields I've set as rules that I want to enrich them with. And this then enables me to essentially publish these products to my different channels. So I can select these two products, say publish to channels. And now, because of this all-in-one platform that we've already talked about a little bit, I can not only publish these two products to my e-commerce channel, so in my men's t-shirts area, but I can of course also publish them to, for instance, Amazon or to a print catalog. And this is a huge deal because with just one integration to LS, I'm essentially able to get my products from LS, enrich them in the PIM system according to all these different rules I have, and then export them to all these different channels with just one integration. And that really takes away a lot of complexity in managing your products. So I'll do this, same and close, and that's basically it. Now the products are published to my web store, and I can then take a look at them in the front end. So in the front end, I can then, of course, find my products here in the men's t-shirts area. And then here in the product list, we of course find my 2 t-shirts, and we can, of course, also search for them with, that could be the search tool, it could be the filtering options we have available. And this is again where all the data that we have in our products becomes important. So the more different information we can enrich our products with, the easier it will also be to find them in the front end. So I can take my t-shirt here, and on the products page we of course also have a lot of information on the t-shirts. So here we're presented with things like a description, specification, prices, and different stock levels in all our different stores and so forth. And this is of course a mix of mirroring the information that we have in LS, so price and stock level, and basic information like name, description, and number will normally be something that we fetch directly from LS and simply mirror so we don't touch that information at all. And then enriching with more information like the specifications here, for instance, what fabric type, lifestyle, and so forth is this product. So you can see this is kind of a combination of base data that we're getting from LS Retail, and that we're complementing with more data that we can enrich, and more complex data that we can enrich in the PIM system. And from here, I mean, you can purchase the product and the order will go directly back to LS, where you can work on it there, and even send it to the POS in the individual store that you've selected for the checkout. And we of course support many different payment and shipping providers as well. But instead of showcasing you something I'm sure that you're fairly familiar with already, I'll try and take a look at some of the different marketing tools we have available in the platform. So I'll dive back into the back end of Dynamicweb, and in our users area I want to work with what we call smart searches. And a smart search is basically a way for us to segment users according to the data that we have in the platform. And of course, because it's an all-in-one platform, we get a lot of information about what our users are doing on the website, what they're doing in the e-commerce part, and also a lot of information from LS due to these strong integration we have there. So that means I can, for instance, segment our users based on, well, how many points do they need to reach the next club level? Has the user bought a t-shirt but maybe not a pair of pants, or something like that? And the way we set these rules up is basically as a smart search. So I can create a new rule in here that allows me to then segment on, for instance, user information. Could be username, their geography, country, and so forth. I can segment based on their behavior on our website. So have they viewed a product or bought a specific product? How many loyalty points do they have? And have they placed an order in the last 30 days? Or custom fields like things we can get directly from LS Retail. So what is their club or club level? How many points do they need to reach the next one? Do they have any perks? And so forth. And of course, with the marketing tools, we can also segment based on their behavior in our marketing campaigns. So I can even segment based on whether or not a specific user has received or opened a mail, or things like this. And I can of course also combine these rules so that, for instance, you start combining offline data with online data. Meaning that you can, for instance, segment around a user who has been shopping on the web store, maybe added something for click and collect, and in the individual physical store they may have even added another item to their purchase. And based on this, you can then start sending vouchers and thank you mails and whatnot. You can, of course, also be a bit proactive and say that if we know that we have information on our users, like when is their birthday, things like this, well, then you can start sending them different kinds of marketing campaigns. So how does it work? Well, we have a few different rules here. If I then go into my marketing area and the email marketing tab, I can then set up both different campaigns, and I can, of course, automate them and set up flows and different kinds of things. So we look at, for instance, the next club campaign level here, for instance. I have a draft ready to go. And if I edit this one, well, then I can of course set my different user segments that I want to hit. That could be with our different user groups, so newsletter group or loyalty club members and whatnot. But of course also our smart search campaigns. So for instance, how close is a specific user segment to reaching the next club level, or other kinds of rules that I want to segment for my email marketing campaigns with. And from here, well, I can of course add an email preview. This is just an example of what an email could look like, with different pictures and text and images and stuff like this. And then I can of course either send the email now, or I can schedule a send. And in this way, you can actually have pretty complex email marketing campaigns running on a scheduled basis, where it will send as soon as a new user becomes part of this marketing group that we have running. So you don't need to be setting up and sending these emails all the time. They will run by themselves according to when we find that a user is now applicable within this user group. So, some points to consider. Why choose Dynamic Web? Well, it really fits into this whole unified commerce offering that we're talking a bit about, because with Dynamic Web you get just the one system for your websites or brands, your e-commerce solutions, and that's not just your web store. That's of course also Amazon and print catalogs and things like this, and that with the one integration you can get your products into all these different channels utilizing the product information management tool in Dynamic Web. And from then you can of course also set up all these different powerful marketing campaigns that we've talked a little bit about. So really the core unified commerce thing here is the one integration that you need between LS Central and Dynamic Web. And again, this allows you to combine offline and online data to really deliver powerful marketing campaigns. And it also enables the customer in the end to save on complexity by reducing the amount of integrations while delivering on this unified commerce offering.
So let me see if I can get to switch the slides here. So thank you very much, Nicolai, for sharing the presentation with us and the demo with us. So just to give you a brief overview on what is the current LS eCommerce API support that the integration from Dynamic Web covers. So I will not dive into details on this one, but I can tell you that the support and the roadmap that we are looking into right now, we are looking into LS 18, LS Central 18, and we are looking to add even more features to the marketing part, so we can actually start changing marketing data from one solution to another. So that will be a very, very big topic for us going forward. I will just show you a couple of slides more and pretty fast, because we are running a little bit out of time here, but just to give you some kind of ideas on who are using Dynamic Web as is, and what types of customers are using Dynamic Web LS Retail Connected. So we were so lucky that a couple of years ago that we actually had Lego in Iceland starting to use Dynamic Web. It is made by our good Icelandic partner Advania, who's also an LS retail partner. So what they made is a fully unified commerce solution. It covers a lot of products and a lot of themes. And they have both click and collect. You can get it sent to you. You can pick it up at pickup points, and so on and so forth. So a solution that I'm proud of. I know that Advania is very proud of that solution as well. Go and have a look at it. Go and play with it a little bit. It's fully open, and it's a nice experience. Another solution that is relatively new is actually a hypermarket in Cyprus, made by our good partner in Cyprus, Nextech. That started out as a full product information management project, where they started to take all their thousands and thousands of products in different categories and organize them in the product information management tool, and then they added the e-commerce next to the solution. Today, it also runs a fully automated recommendation engine. So when people they revisit our website or the website, they will get recommended products that suits into their behavior from previous visits. Couple of other retail cases, LS retail cases. So in South Africa, a couple of weeks ago, our partner Braintree went live with ARC stores. ARC stores, they sell beauty products. A impressing solution. I think that you should go and have a look at that one. Selling everything from Hugo Boss to DKNY, everything from creams to scents. A very, very impressive solution. One of the things that makes this very special is that they have got a lot of variants on the different products. Then our first solution, Croata, selling actually ties, very exclusive ties, company originating from out of Croatia. It's a fashion store. Also, maybe go and buy a tie. They actually make ties with gold threads, so it's quite decent and quite impressive. Holland Barrett is from Cyprus as well, and StoreCash is a B2B solution, actually selling to restaurants and other stores in Norway that is being implemented as we speak. So just to finish up and to give you some advice, whether you are a customer or you are a partner of ours, or to be a partner of ours. So I would say that the key here to become successful, e-commerce is not just e-commerce. E-commerce is not simple. E-commerce is actually complex because it requires both a front end where you have a lot of feelings and emotion. How should it look, and which features and functionalities should we have there? And then you have on the other side a lot of business logic that has to meet each other. So making sure that you follow a process, whether it should look like this or it should look like someone is not that important, but it's extremely important that you are clear on making sure that we actually have a process and that we follow different steps. So what I'm trying to say here is that aligning expectations before you start the project is everything. So making sure that we qualify the customer, giving them some kind of ballpark estimation, also for you as a customer to get an idea on what cost are we looking into and what size of project are we looking into. We can start by just making a simple draft up, what we call a ballpark estimation. In this way, both partner, us, and customer, we align expectations in terms of size. Then when we get a little bit further down the line and we start to go more into deep dive, understanding specifications, things like that, and we have to make an actually quote, then make sure that you cover all the tricky areas of implementing an e-commerce solution. And delivering after that is key. So don't ever embark on a project unless you have described it quite detailed. So every project that we are involved in starts with a solution description where we wireframe the full solution, making sure that everybody is aligned, that yes, the front page should look like this. Yes, this is how we should filter product. Yes, this is how the different pricing rules should apply, things like that. Making sure that we can deliver on expectations, making sure to guide the customer, making sure to guide everyone along the way. At the end of the day, it's only a question about meeting expectations and delivering good projects. That's how we all win. Of course, if you are a customer and you are trying to think about, okay, should I embark on a dynamic web project? You should also know that we are right behind our partners. We do have partner processes. We do have programs that our partners follow. We have certification programs, training programs, and even we also deliver peers that sit next to our partners when they start to embark on a dynamic web project, because e-commerce is not just e-commerce. E-commerce is much more than e-commerce. That concludes the presentation, Peter. So I guess it's into a Q&A.
Yes, thank you, Brede. Thank you for this excellent overview, both of you, Brede and Nicolai. Before we head into the Q&A, one point to close it off. For those of you who are familiar with LS Retail, you know that this is the time of the year when we are looking forward to meeting all of you at our annual Connection Conference. But as it is, we still cannot meet in person. And therefore, what we've done is that we have launched the Connection 2021 video series where Magnus Nordahl, our CEO, presents the road ahead and how LS Retail technology keeps businesses ahead and in control. And then shortly coming up will be the second part of the video series where Brede Kárason, our CTO, will share our roadmap and our plans for our solutions, where the role of e-commerce has simply never been greater. So I encourage you to visit lsretail.com and watch the video series and to see how our recent development all comes together to deliver unified commerce infused by intelligence inside the Evergreen train and controlled by the Action Hub. So on behalf of LS Retail and Dynamicweb, thank you very much for joining us today and have a great rest of your day. Bye-bye.
Thank you all.